We're going to be talking about the top 5 CZ P10C upgrades. This is a gun I purchased earlier this year to do some customizations to. And so far, we have done a lot of customizations to it. Let's just stop wasting time and let's get into it. If you see anything in this video that you might want to pick up, just check the link down in the description. That in no particular order. Number 1, let's talk about this trigger. This is the HB Industries flat trigger. And right now, I believe it's the only aftermarket trigger shoe you can get for the CZ P10C. It is very interesting looking. Now, the OEM trigger that comes with the CZ P10C is actually really nice. I would say between Glock and M&P, the CZ P10C actually has a better trigger than both of them as far as the way that you do the take up, the reset, the break, and the pull weight. To me, it is far superior. However, there was 2 things about the trigger that I didn't like with the OEM CZ P10C. Number 1, although it had a short take up, break, and reset, I didn't like the hard wall that I hit. I don't know if maybe that was only with my CZ P10C because I did shoot another person's who had an OEM trigger and their trigger felt amazing and it wasn't any more broken in than mine was. So maybe it was only specific to mine, but mine had a kind of a hard wall to it and I really wanted to get that kind of smoothed out. The second thing that I didn't like about the OEM trigger was the trigger shoe itself. The trigger shoe just was a slippery plastic. I didn't like the feel of that. It was a very thin trigger shoe in this direction right here. And when you have a thin trigger shoe that's kind of radiused around the sides, it can actually increase your chances putting your finger on here and pushing it this way or pulling it that way because it had so little surface area on the front face. So I picked up the HBI Industries. I actually paid for the majority of this stuff, but the HBI Industries trigger here, you can see it 100% has so much more surface area on the front of the shoe, and it's a lot straighter. And you can get it in a bunch of different cool colors. I'm gonna call this one Pumpkin Spice because it's orange, but all of you guys know that I love orange anyway. Now this trigger was a really good deal. They're only like $60 or $62 depending on where you get it. I'll have a link below for it if that's something you're into. But it comes with the trigger shoe itself and it comes with different striker springs that will reduce the striker weight. Now one thing I was kind of worried about was light primer strikes. Right now, I have the 3.5 pound spring in there. It's, I guess, what they consider their duty spring. And then they have a 3 pound spring in there as well. And using Fiocchi ammo, I had 0 issues with light primer strikes or anything. And it most definitely lowered the trigger weight. Right now, this trigger is pulling right at 4 pounds or just a hair under 4 pounds. And sometimes these striker fired, have a variance in them. It is super fast and super easy to get faster follow-up shots. It's super easy to be more accurate. None of these mods are gonna put a band-aid if you have a lack of skills. Like if you don't know proper trigger discipline, you don't know proper grip and recoil mitigating techniques and proper sight alignment. If you don't have the basics down, none of this stuff is gonna aid in helping you become a better shooter or a faster shooter. So whenever I talk about getting triggers, I don't talk about getting them to put a band-aid over improper training or lack thereof. But it does take whatever skills that you do have and it definitely enhances them regardless of what gun platform that you're on, whether it's the CZ, the Glock 19, or an M&P. This trigger shoe is made of a 6061 T6 aluminum. It does reduce a little bit of the take up, which we will take a look at right now. It is beautiful. Like I said, it does come with the 2 extra springs, but if you don't want to reduce the pull weight, you can just use the trigger shoe and the OEM striker spring, and that way you keep the same exact weight that came with your gun, but you still get the reduced take up and the better trigger shoe that just results in a better trigger experience overall. I can definitely say for the $62 that I paid for this, it definitely improved the 2 things that I didn't like about the OEM trigger. Now, the next mod that we have is the barrel and compensator. And I'm just gonna be really honest with you guys. From all the barrels that I've tested with Smith & Wessons and Glocks, I have very rarely ever seen an accuracy difference going from an OEM barrel to a match grade barrel. You're not gonna see the difference in your hand. You may see the difference in a ransom rest, but let's just be honest here. None of us have a grip that is as tight or as stable as a ransom rest. Take this as a grain of salt, but we do have the Primary Machine match grade barrel. This one is threaded and it's got the spiral flutes going along the top there. Now you can get these barrels in a couple couple of different flavors. Number one, you can get them in titanium nitride, or you can get them in black nitride. You can also get them threaded or non-threaded. Thing is, I wasn't planning on getting an aftermarket barrel. I was planning on getting an OEM CZ threaded barrel so I could buy this compensator right here. When I started looking at the prices from the CZ website for their threaded barrel and then buying this comp from Primary Machine, it was only like $10 more to get the package deal with the match grade barrel that's fluted with the compensator. So if you have a CZ P10C and you don't have the tactical version that has the threaded barrel, it's worth it to just buy the package deal and get a superior barrel for only 10 bucks more. Now, like I mentioned, with Glocks and M&Ps, I've never really noticed a difference in my groupings on paper at a gun range. I just never have. Now, I'm not a precision shooter, but at the range, I noticed substantially tighter groups using just basic range ammo at 45 feet. Now, I'm not one of those people that goes and measures the distance between my shots. I'm just not worried about that. And you know what? It could be a complete placebo effect. But it's only weird if it doesn't work, right? Speaking of the barrel and the compensator, this one is also the Primary Machine compensator. Now, they did Cerakote this one to match the slide, and I will say I love how they even took the time to not cover up the white lettering on their logo there. I was wondering about that because this was black when I first got it and it still had the white lettering on the bottom. But I'm very surprised that they actually took the time and put a new logo on it or just didn't cover it up. I don't know how they did that. So that's legit. Compensators are one of those things that I don't think that anyone needs. They are nice to have, but they do give you a slight advantage theoretically if you were in a gunfight. Now, I'm not a tactical expert, so you're gonna have to take this as a grain of salt. But theoretically, it gives you faster follow-up shots. Some people like to argue a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to get into all that. At the end of the day, I have two primary concerns when it comes to compensators. Of those two concerns, every compensator must pass two tests in order for me to even think about carrying with it. Number one, it must cycle using range ammunition. A lot of times compensators, you really see the benefit when you're shooting high powered ammo, like some plus P or plus P plus. That's where they really shine. But a lot of times with comps, if you're gonna get any malfunctions, it's gonna happen with range ammo. So if I can run a few hundred rounds of range ammo and have zero malfunctions, that's a win. The second caveat to that is it must be able to perform that task with range ammo using the OEM guide rod spring. And the reason I bring that up is I've had kind of just wonky luck with light and guide rod springs, at least with the Glocks. Didn't lock open. When you start putting light and springs on them, they don't want to always go back into battery. They get pushed out of battery a lot easier. So being able to shoot this and have it cycle 100% reliably using range ammo into OEM guide rod spring, it performed all of those tasks as well. Now, a lot of people think that the primary goal of a compensator is to reduce recoil. No, it's a byproduct of the primary goal. The primary goal, your muzzle wants to do a backflip out of your hand like this, right? The one thing that really stops us from getting a faster second shot, third shot is letting those sights come back down and settle. Well, all a compensator does is the gases shoot out of the top and pushes the front sights back down faster. That's what their primary goal is, not to reduce recoil. That's just a byproduct of it, at least for a handgun. It has really surprised me. It has worked 100% reliably. Nothing but great things to say. Now, because CZ doesn't make an optics ready P10C yet, I wanted to put a red dot on it. This is the Trijicon RMR Type 2. I believe this one is the RM07, has a 6.5 MOA dot. I wanted to do a little bit of a compare and contrast between the 6.5 and the 3.25 that I have on my other carry gun. I will say I most definitely prefer the 3.25 MOA because you can turn it up to its max brightness and it makes that dot it plumes out like this and gets a lot bigger. Whereas this one, if you reduce the brightness, you can't make the dots smaller. We're not talking about red dots. We're gonna do that in a different video. But I wanted to put a red dot on it, and there is only 3 slide companies right now who are doing slide cuts for this. So what did I have done to the slide? Well, aside from the Trijicon RMR, a lot of companies will only put a sight right here in the front of it because of the way that the dovetail is positioned on the CZ P10C. However, Primary Machine took it a step further. They actually cut a new dovetail here, and this is actually a Glock sight. And then they put in a blacked out front sight right up here. That way we're able to put the red dot in front of the rear sight. That's just how I prefer it. There's really no right or wrong way to do it. The reason I really prefer the sight being behind the optic is if I ever decide to take the RMR off and then put the cover plate on there and run it without it, I can do that with no problems. Whereas if I put it on the front, yeah, I kind of gain an advantage of maybe a millisecond of faster target acquisition. Yeah, it kind of protects the glass. But now, if I take the red dot off, I'm gonna have a little short bus of a sight radius, and that's something I just don't wanna have happen. That's why I got that. This is their Omen V2 slide package. So you can see right here, they left the front serrations alone, but they added a couple down here at the bottom. They also added a window port on the side, and then I specifically requested top serrations. The one thing I didn't like about the OEM slide, the serrations here are so far down, you sometimes couldn't get your hands on it. And I like having something on the top. I don't got to completely wrap my thumb around it if I need to press check it. And they are dead sexy. I mean, look at those. Look at that. Beautiful. On this side here, we have a little bit of a relief cut going on and a tiny, tiny little logo. And I love how that logo is so small. And that's it. That's all the branding that's on there. And that is awesome. Now, the color of this, I'm sure you guys are going to be asking, is a burnt bronze. And it just so happened to match the Coyote Tan Olight PL2 Valkyrie that I have on here. I put the light on here just because I wanted to see what it looked like. I'm not going to be carrying with this. I'm actually ordering another APLC from Enforce because I have this awesome holster here that was actually made specifically for this project. And this is the Tier 1 concealed Agus holster. I've already done a review on it as well as mentioned it in my last everyday carry video. Let me show you how this whole thing conceals. So I don't have any ammo in here, but I have the flush mag right here. I have my +5 round mag here, which we'll talk more about this mag extension in a second. And now, wearing nothing but jeans and a t-shirt or shorts and a t-shirt, I can conceal a CZ P10C with a Trijicon RMR with a compensator and with an APLC on there. So that is really awesome. Plus the +5 mag extension. And this is the way I like to carry all of my guns. You know, I got 15 plus 20. I've got 45 rounds of 9mm ready to go at all times. And if anything, God forbid, ever happened and I had to defend my life, it's just right there. And I got the red dot and the light, and I can defend myself with it. So I really highly recommend these. They aren't the most affordable holsters, but they're definitely awesome. They flex with your body. I've already done videos on it. Now, the last mod that I wanted to talk about today is the mag extensions. These are the Shield Arms mag extensions. I've been using these with my Glocks and the CZ as well as the SIG P320. It is a +5 mag extension and they got a million different colors for it. I've had 0 issues with the cycling. It comes with the extra powered springs, so they're good to go. So now let's talk about the one mod that is left to do on this, and that is getting it stippled. Stippling is one of those things that if you've never tried it before, you kind of don't understand what the big deal is. The CZ P10C, yes, it has very nice checkering around the front strap here, on the sides, and then right here. But it's super slippery in this side over here, as well as up in here, and I don't like that. I've actually found that this OEM texturing is too aggressive in some parts and not aggressive at all in other parts that I think is necessary. For example, this is my typical EDC gun. Now, right now, I'm not carrying it because I'm actually testing this new compensator here. That is from my buddies at Loki Tactical who also did the slide. But check out this stippling. This one was done by Stip Grips. But I love how he gets up into here. I love how he gets up into here. And when you put your thumbs here and you got your index finger right back in here, everything is covered in nice stippling. And then your little thumb groove that's right here It sits right there beautifully and your hand sticks to it like grip tape. But it's not aggressive, and when you're carrying it, it doesn't aggravate your skin. If you've never tried stippling, I don't care who you try, just try someone that's reputable. Try some stippling before you knock it. So definitely gonna be getting this guy stippled here in the very near future. I'm not sure which company I'm gonna use. Maybe Danger Close Armament. Maybe I'll see if they wanna do some stippling on it. We will see. It all kind of comes down to what the lead times are. But moving forward, that's the only mod that's left to do to this gun, aside from putting the APLC on here because the APLC was made for this holster. I mentioned this earlier. Let's talk about, is it worth it to customize the CZ P10C? Because let's just be honest, the CZ P10C is an amazing gun right out of the box. The only real issue that I didn't like about it was I didn't like how there wasn't any texturing on the sides where your index finger and your thumb go. Aside from that, everything else was just nitpicky stuff. Like I mentioned with the trigger, not having enough surface area on the front face and having a little bit of a stutter in the brake. OEM, the CZ P10C is an amazing gun. Let's just get that out of the way. It's super accurate. It's easy to be accurate with. The ergonomics of it are awesome. I love how this beaver tail just rests right into the webbing of your hand. No issues. To answer the question, is it worth it? That depends, and that really depends on the end user, because ultimately the value of any product is determined by how much someone is willing to pay for it. Whether or not that value outweighs the price. The perceived value that we gain has to outweigh the price, or otherwise we won't buy it. So I'm gonna say it like this, the trigger, 100% win, 62 bucks. It does an amazing job. I don't think you would ever regret buying this trigger unless you live in a state that doesn't allow you to modify triggers, so check your local and state laws. The barrel and the compensator. Now, like I said, comps are one of those things that I'm like, nobody really needs them, but they are nice to have. I wouldn't say you need it, but I would say if you want to kind of make it more manageable than it already is, then yeah, go ahead and get it. That's fine. The barrel, incidentally, I only have a sample size of one, but I did notice tighter groups at 45 feet. The package deal of the compensator and the barrel was like 300 bucks. Not a bad little dealio there. And I do get tighter groups. So I can say that for me, yeah, that's kind of worth it. Now the Trijicon RMR, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this, guys. I have yet to try a red dot that I would want to carry over the Trijicon RMR, and it has to do with the battery life and the durability of them. There are a lot of other great red dots, the Burris Fastfire 3, the Vortex Viper, the Vortex Venom. But this one is one of those red dot optics that it's kind of like the stippling that I mentioned earlier. Until you try it, you just don't know what you're missing. But if you are interested in these Trijicons and stuff like that, I'll have a link below. The mag extensions, if you're gonna carry an extra mag, why not have a +5? That's kind of how I look at that. Now for the slide work, I gotta warn you guys, this is the most expensive slide work that I've ever personally tested. I've tested a lot of different Glock slides. I've never even tried a slide that's already customized that costs as much as this slide work. You know what I mean? Now, granted, I didn't pay for this, but I'm trying to keep an objective perspective on this as if I would have shelled out my own money on the slide work. Everything else I paid for. So something I noticed about Primary, they do a phenomenal job on all the little details when they Cerakote and do the cuts on the slide. And what I mean by that is, like I was showing you, how they actually integrated their logo when they re-Cerakoted it. There have been times where I've had custom Glock slides come back from Cerakote, and there is a ton of buildup in the rails of the slide. And when I go to put it on the gun, it didn't want to function until I just really got those high spots of Cerakote worn down. With this one, none of that was an issue for me. The only part that was an issue was because I have the match grade barrel that's in here right now, it was a little tight around the barrel hood, but Primary Machine actually put a little piece of paper in there saying, this is gonna happen, this is how you break it in. So that was really cool that they put that in there to kind of give you a heads up. I will say the slide work is very clean, it shoots very flat, and it didn't affect the reliability of it at all. Personally for me, I look at all these different mods as, are they gonna help me be effective or give me any type of an advantage if I ever need to defend my life? Ultimately though, the function of the slide with these top serrations and everything, I mean, it's just super easy for me to press out and get my sight really quickly. And they did go ahead and do a whole new dovetail, and they included the sights, which, don't get me wrong, that added to the price. It's in the high $400 range without an RMR cut and without the sights and getting the rear dovetail recut. So it's not that expensive, but when you start adding all this stuff on, it's like, whoa, dude, that got a little pricey. Personally, when you think about that price, you're gonna flinch. Your butthole's gonna clench a little bit. But then when you actually shoot it and hold it in your hands, yeah, I think it's worth it. This gun has ran 100% reliably. I've had 0 malfunctions with this, regardless of the mods that I put on it. And honestly, it ran great before, but at the end of the day, if it gives me an advantage, if I ever need to defend my life or my family's life, how do you really put a price on something like that? But let me know if you guys have any questions down in the comments section below. I would love to talk to you guys about this. What do you guys think of the CZ P10C build so far? And until next time, you guys stay sexy and I love you.